Okay, so we're going from country Victoria to West Africa. Next up, we have Mark Strizek. He is the Executive Director of Tietto Minerals. These guys have been galloping along at a pace, but here to tell the story, please welcome Mark Strizek.
Thanks, Kerry, and hello everyone. So Tietto Minerals, look, it's a very simple story. We're rapidly growing high-grade open pitable resources at Abujar in Côte d'Ivoire. We've kind of been doing that a little bit differently than some of our peers in that we've taken drilling in-house, and so that's really allowed us to have an incredibly low cash burn, but while drilling, some really a very large amount of meters year on year. And as you'll see, we've certainly been growing our resources, very, very quickly. I'll just go to the next slide, and that'll just show you the disclaimer. Definitely take some time to do your research, and obviously there's a fair amount of forward-looking statements here as well. This just gives you a little timeline, the development of Abujar. So we listed in January 2018. And last year we delivered 2.2 million ounces of gold resources, and we rolled straight into a 50,000 meter drill program. And we actually have completed 50,000 meters. We're well on track for a resource update in the end of September this year. And that will be using that drilling that we have been able to complete since the last resource update. We certainly are funded to aggressively grow our resources, and we think we're well on track to develop a standalone gold camp of scale. What I'll show you is some of the substantial upside that remains. We've got a very large fairway to work with, and there's a lot of targets there to go after. So we're going to be busy for very many years. On the other side, development side, we've got a pre-feasibility study due very early in 2021. We'll be trying everything to try and stretch that forward into this year, at the end of the year. Obviously, that updated resource estimate, that'll be flowing into that PFS. Metallurgical work has been completed. There's obviously more to do as well, but the baseline results are very, very attractive. So I'll show you the next step. A little bit about ourselves. So in terms of market capitalization, there's been a fairly large increase. We've moved into just over $200 million Australian. We've got 393 million shares on issue. We're pretty well capitalized. We're pretty well financed as well, with $30 million in the bank on the 14th of August. And that's come by part of a very substantial capital raise that we're completing now. The first tranche is in, and the second tranche will be completed in September. That'll put about 60 million in the kitty. And we've been able to attract some significant domestic and international institutions. So we're very happy with that. Other point I will notice is the directors holding around about 8%. So we're all shareholders in this company, and we're very well aligned with the interests of our shareholders. In terms of the directors, we've got the right mix. Dr. Kagan Wang is the MD and founded the company in 2010 before moving into Côte d'Ivoire. So a range of engineering, geological, finance. So, I think we've got the right team to take the project through to the next steps. In terms of Côte d'Ivoire, some of the key points, look, it is, as we say there, it's a very explored mining jurisdiction. You can see there last year in 2019, just on 33 tonne of gold from 5 mines, and a couple of large mines as well. Obviously Tongon in the north there, that's was part of Randgold, is now Barrick, and Idi Mine down in the south, which is that Endeavour group. So they're 250,000 ounce plus, and there's a range of other mines as well. You've got Sissingi, which is a little bit smaller, but then we've got Development Perseus with the RA as well. Why is it a great destination for explorers? It's got over 34% of Broome greenstones. So they're very, very prospective and prolific gold hosts. In terms of the government support, we've got good support. In terms of the tenure, it's a very transparent, and also fiscally, there's a 5-year corporate tax holiday that you can negotiate with the government. Infrastructure, it's a real standout. very good from the port at Abujar to a very well-developed tarred internal road network. And the other aspect is power. It's a net energy exporter. It has hydro and also natural gas, and has very, very cheap power unit costs, probably around about, well, less than 11 cents US kilowatt hour. One of the important aspects of where our Abujar project is, we're only about 30 kilometres for a 90 kilovolt ring main feeder. So as we start thinking about development options, that's something that's firmly in our mind. Just dialing in on the Abujar Gold Project. So we've got that headline number, the 2.2 million ounces that we delivered last year in November. The resources come from the middle tenement, and you can just see them there as well. That fairway we talked about, 70 kilometres of strike length. We've got tenure to the north and to the south, so it's province scale. The important takeaway is Abujar, what we talk about AUG, there's a high grade core there, just on 1.4 million ounces at 2.2, and that outcrops from surface, so it's shaping up as a very attractive open pit target. We've also, as part of that, we've got round about 900,000 ounces at AUG that's within the indicated category, and I'll show you where that sits. We talk about a gold camp developing, and we can see there that you've got AUG and APG about 5 kilometres away as well. That's a lower grade and slightly smaller target, but it has some oxide, so it could be attractive. In terms of metallurgical test work, we'll show you that we've got 98% or so recovery. And key to Tietto is the fact that we do our drilling in-house, and that gives us some incredibly low drilling cost per metre. Just zooming in on AUG, and this is giving you a long section on the right-hand side. On the left of the screen, you can see the league table with some absolutely cracking widths and grades right from surface, but also open at depth. So this is a growing in real time as we continue to drill. This resource is growing at depth. But importantly, what we can see here, these 7 intervals at 200 gold gram meters, we've got round about 600 or 700 meters of strike length here. When we interrogate the resource model at open pit cutoff grades, 0.4 and above, you can see round about 3 to 3.5 grams sitting right at surface. So that's shaping up as a very attractive open pit development option. Before I leave the slide, I would like to bring your attention to the fact that you can see we've already identified this 900,000 ounces of indicated. That's these big black lines there. And that accounts for roughly half of the current resource in this area at this stage. Just moving down to APG, it's around about 5 kilometres away, and you can see some distance metrics there. We've been growing this this year from our drilling in these black boxes, and growing this resource from what is currently obviously a modest 350,000 ounces at a gram, but we think there's good prospects to add to that. Some of the drilling results, we've had 9 at 2.4, 40 metres at 2.5 from pretty close to surface, 50 metres or so. So it's not the main game, but it's a good value add to see, and having the potential of 40 metres of oxide, very attractive development operation. Next slide just kind of puts it together for you, just where the resource growth is coming in this resource update in September. And you can see we've talked about that AG core. We've been extending that along strike, but also at depth. So that'll account for most of the resource increase. And we've also talked about APG. We've been doing some work at AG South, and that's logically just stepping along strike there. We're seeing some nice quartz vein from surface, some nice grade. We're also working what we call this GG link area here, and that had some fairly extensive artisanal workings. So these 4 areas will come together. We'll be cutting the drilling off at the end of August, and the resource update is due at the end of September. As soon as that resource is delivered, we'll be moving straight into the next targets to drive resource growth into the next year. So it's one of the keys with Tietto, is that we'll be running a very aggressive exploration in tandem as we do the development work. And you can see here, this is just the middle tenement. You can see that middle corridor where we've currently got our resources coming from, the AG high-grade core, APG. But you can see there's a full suite of targets from obviously from resource definition, but also target testing definition and reconnaissance work. So these are the targets to look out for next year. And remember as well, we've also got tenure to the north and to the south. So there's a lot here to keep us very busy. Look, I love this slide because it really shows just how aggressively we've been getting on with it. From IPO, 700,000 ounces at 2.2, which was all inferred, and that was in January 2018, to delivering 2.2 million ounces in November. And importantly, we've been able to grow that high-grade core to 1.4 million ounces at 2.2. We've got over 50,000 meters, which will be feeding into this September resource update. So it's definitely going to be something to look forward to. The key to delivering this really very aggressive growth has been the fact that we've taken drilling in-house, and we've been able to drill for very low cost at extremely high meter rates. And you can see there last month in July, we did over 8,500 meters from surface with our diamond team. So these guys are really getting on with it, and they allow us to drill for junior rates, but really we're drilling like a major, and we're really focused on growing resources here at Abujar. The other aspect to look forward to is the metallurgy, the PFS, and the key component has been the metallurgy. The results have been very, very attractive. Gravity is upwards of 1%, and you can compare that to some of our peers up to 38% or so. Gravity is very important because it's the lowest form of gold concentration, the cheapest form of gold concentration available. The CIL cleanup takes us up to about 98.9%. The other aspect I want to draw your attention to is the physical test work. That's the bond abrasion and the bond and rod indexes. They're very low compared for our fresh material, between 13 to 12, round about 30% lower energy inputs required. So what does it mean? It means that we're going to have a very simple flow sheet, and it's also going to be a low capex. We're only going to need a single stage crushing circuit, which will be a single stage SAG mill in there, and then it'll be a gravity cleanup with gravity with CIL cleanup. We're also able to do that at large, what's called coarse grind sizes, between 106 to 150 microns. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. Importantly, that PFS, this has provided the foundation, and the PFS work is underway. The other aspect, we've been working very closely with the community. We've appointed NBTech and Ivorian team to manage our what's called our ESIA. So we're doing a range of baseline studies looking at social and also flora, fauna. So we're working through dry and wet season, and we believe we'll be in a position to be able to submit that application for the environmental approval before the end of the year. Importantly, we've also appointed Luke Stevens from RPM Global. Luke worked at the Bonikro mine in Côte d'Ivoire for over 3 years. That work, so he's providing some oversight to make sure we can meet equator principles. So kind of wrapping it up, we've talked about where we've come from, and this kind of gives you a bit of an outline of what to look forward to during the year. A mining license, actually, that is under current application, and that's been accepted by the government. So we're working through a range of items. It hasn't been granted yet, but the first phase of the work has been completed. We've got the resource update in September, and you saw where those targets, the resources are coming from, that AUG, that high-grade core, which is growing, AG South, GG Link, and APG. Aside from that, once we deliver that resource update, the drilling will continue. And you saw where some of those targets are coming from, that range of reconnaissance, definition, and so forth. So that'll be driving resource growth into next year. We're not going to stop drilling. We continue to be focused on growing resources here. Aside from that, we've got a PFS due. We talk about January 2021. Our stretch target internally is to try and deliver it in December this year. And the goal is for next year, delivering a DFS at the end of June 2021. So plenty of news flow, lots of activity, well funded. So there we are. We're certainly an emerging West African gold developer. We've got that high grade resource, which has grown that 2.2 million ounces, open pittable. You can see how quickly we've been able to deliver resources from IPO through to last year. And that's been virtue of our very aggressive drill program, running that internally inside. Oops, excuse me. So we're funded. We've got very supportive shareholders. I think the feasibility side of things will help, be able to put some metrics around it. I think it's going to look like a pretty attractive project. In all the meanwhile, continue news flow. So that's all from me, and please, keep your eye out on what we're up to.
A very good presentation. Thank you, Mark. And it's interesting. I hadn't realized that Côte d'Ivoire was such a good jurisdiction. I quite often think that Africa might have its challenges, but first of all, congratulations on your low drilling costs by bringing buying the drill rigs and having them at your disposal. I think do you think that was a key to being, because it is about keeping costs down as you develop into a mine, isn't it?
Look, it certainly is. It's been a game changer. I mean, I've been on the other side as MD at Vital and doing smaller piecemeal programs as you can afford, and you never really get that that real momentum. And that's the key here. That I think it's a credit to the MD, to Kagan, in we're probably a little bit lucky in terms that we had that 700,000 ounces. We knew we were onto something fairly substantial, but it's still it's an incredible amount of work, and it's a credit to his foresight. And the team in country do an incredible job, and it's a total game changer. We just completed 650-meter hole there, and normally be looking at something. If you went out commercially for that, it'd be between $250,000, $350,000. But when you're doing that at $35 to $40 a meter, it changes the game. So it's a new paradigm really for us, Kerry.
Yeah, and that's shareholder funds. So it's really good to see a company actually looking and saying, you know what, we need to be clever about the way we do this and the way we develop it. A question for you from someone that's come in. Has COVID affected any of your operations? I mean, it's the thing on everyone's lips at the moment. Is that affecting you guys at all, being in Australia to Côte d'Ivoire?
Look, let's go with Côte d'Ivoire first. I think we were very lucky that Kagan had been in down near Shanghai at the end of in Chinese New Year and knew that something was coming. So he was already starting to make preparations. So in terms of the impact on our operations, there hasn't been any, apart from the fact that we've put in quarantine protocols. We've stockpiled fuel and supplies, and been working with our assay labs and so forth, and being able to move core from site through to them. So that part of it, we've got a great team in-house, and they're able to do everything that's required. For Kagan and myself, we haven't been able to go. Kagan was last. I was there in Feb. Kagan was there in March. But like we're talking on Zoom, the technology allows us to have very regular communication with the key people in site. But number one, we've got a great Ivorian management team and a great drilling team, so they're able to manage things without us constantly annoying them.
Okay, you've got 1 minute to. There's a lot of people that are listening today that are new timers in the gold equity market. Why should they look at Tietto as an investment?
Look, we're very leveraged, to this rising gold price. It's only going to increase, and we are making that step from a pure explorer to a developer as well. So a couple of irons in our fire. We intend to continue to explore and to grow resources, but we're also looking at turning that work that we've done into gold bars. And I think we can do what we've done with our drilling. We're looking at having a very aggressive schedule somewhat, and you can look at, we're following behind West African and obviously Perseus. So lots to look forward to.
Well, well done. You've certainly been pushing the envelope there. So ladies and gentlemen, please thank Mark Strizek from Tietto Minerals. Thanks for joining us today, Mark.
Thanks very much, Kerry. It's a pleasure.